I'm reading that and I'm not going Eureka, I'm going, it's a cover-up.
The Times of London revealed Oxfam tried to cover up sex crimes by senior aid workers in Haiti.
Général d'Oxfam France.
Oxfam. Senior Oxfam staff.
Oxfam.
I want to talk about the Oxfam scandal.
I was approached directly by someone who still remains anonymous and will remain anonymous, and that person basically said to me nothing more concrete than, I am really, really concerned about some of the things that have gone on at Oxfam. As a starting point, all I had was that person's credibility. There were no facts, there were no details, just this is a credible person. What they're saying is quite alarming. It's worth investigating this.
First conversation that I had with Sean was when he was arranging to meet an initial contact on this story. It was clearly going to be one of those stories that was going to take an awful lot of work. If these allegations are true, this is an incredibly powerful story that really needs to be told.
The first incident that came to the fore was the story of Leslie Agams. Leslie Agams had been the country director for Oxfam in Nigeria. She had been sexually assaulted, the charity had mishandled it, and she had then been dismissed by the man who sexually assaulted her. We were put in touch with her, we were able to talk to her, and she had the courage to come forward and tell her story very directly. Her courage encourages other people to step forward and to believe that actually the time is maybe now to raise this issue, but the specific way in is Haiti.
The worst disaster in United Nations history.
In just one short minute, the capital Port-au-Prince was torn apart.
When I start researching Oxfam Haiti 2011, you find a very small amount of coverage of the dismissal of a number of staff in Haiti, but there are enough clues to start picking away. We know people are dismissed, we don't know why. There seems to have been a real emphasis on telling the world that they weren't dismissed for fraud, it was misconduct. And for me, I'm just going question, well, what was it for? That press release to me asks more questions than it answers. A lot of people still very, very nervous to talk about this. A lot of people saying, do you know what, I put this behind me. Or a lot of people saying, I'm very loyal to Oxfam. The mistakes were made, but I don't want to talk about it. And then eventually I find somebody who says, yeah, I know all about it. And I would like to talk about it, but I'm just not ready. Their security, protecting their identities is really important. And in many ways, the only way to do that is face-to-face meetings and handovers of documents.
I mean, that's at the heart of everything that Sean does as an investigative journalist. It's keeping the group small, it's keeping the information very tight, and it's allowing him to do his job before people get wind of what he's doing so that we can break the story and that we're not scooped.
It then becomes quite a slow process with that individual. Again, don't ask me why that person goes, do you know what? I need to get this off my chest. Crucially, that opens a chink in which leads me to somebody else who can then suddenly produce a document, which is the investigation report. The document is dynamite, basically. It is concrete proof that a great British institution, Oxfam, a shop on every high street, a household name, somebody that everybody's granny leaves money to and somebody everybody buys a coat from at some point in their life, that does this amazing work around the world, has covered up really serious wrongdoing by its aid workers in a disaster zone. It has been exploiting the very people it's supposed to protect and help. It refers to serious sexual misconduct. It has phrases like, we cannot rule out the fact that some of the prostitutes may have been underage. It talks about a senior figure being allowed to resign quietly. I'm reading that and I'm not going Eureka, I'm going, it's a cover-up. They knew an awful lot more than they divulged to the government, to the regulator, to the police in Haiti, to the government in Haiti, and to the public who give them millions of pounds every year and would be appalled if they knew what had happened.
We've got this in black and white. that stacks up exactly what we've been trying to do, and we can now see a way forward where we can publish this story.
As the story becomes more concrete, it becomes very important, essential to get Oxfam's response.
Sean and I discussed the questions that would be put to Oxfam, and we held them until I was satisfied that we could ask them whether they thought there had been a cover-up. You've got really serious allegations against a major charity, allegations of quite serious abuse in terrible circumstances in Haiti. You would expect a really strong response, and I would have expected a really strong legal letter. In fact, the response was really tame.
There are many specific points they do not answer. I still do not understand why they were not more transparent in their PR responses.
I think Sean said to me, they know what they've done, don't they?
That final 24 hours, if you like, is very intensive. Even though I have written this story maybe 4 or 5 times, I'm still spending most of that day writing it, tweaking it.
You're going back at this point over all the evidence. I look at everything and cross-check all the documents and emails against each other. I'm going back over everything that Sean has said to me.
The deadlines stretch into like 9:30 at night, so we're still working on the story right up to that time. We have thought in advance about how we, unfold this. So day one is the basic story. This is what happened. Oxfam covered up serious sexual misconduct by senior aid workers in Haiti after the earthquake. It's a bold statement about a major British institution. The major individual in the story becomes Roland van Houwemeiren, who was the country director in Haiti. So he's in charge of these guys who are accused of misconduct in using prostitutes, but he is accused of using prostitutes himself. He admits that, and he has negotiated a deal to quietly resign with a small notice period. Oxfam come out and they put up their former chief executive to do a round of interviews. She's saying there was no cover-up, we behaved properly, we were transparent. And that actually fuels the story because people can see that they weren't transparent. They kind of blundered from one disaster to another. We collaborated with BBC Newsnight and said that we will, under embargo, show you what we're doing for our second day story. They had Barbara Stocking on, the former chief exec of Oxfam, on that Friday night for interview. Emily Maitlis does an amazing interview with her. That almost ignites the story.
They were happy that a man hadn't even been fired for having exploitative sex with prostitutes in a disaster-strewn country like Haiti.
On the Monday after the story appears, Penny Lawrence, who's the number 2 at Oxfam, resigns. At the time of the scandal in Haiti, she was directly responsible for that division.
Was there a cover-up? Have you ruined Oxfam's reputation?
The then chief executive, Mark Goldring, did a disastrous newspaper interview with The Guardian, which he just seemed to misunderstand the whole nature of the scandal. And he said, what happened? We didn't murder any babies. They sort of blundered into a House of Commons Select Committee inquiry where they just kept going, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry.
I apologise for that. I'm sorry. I should not have said those things. I do apologise.
They still didn't seem to grasp what had happened and why they were wrong. They didn't get it. DFID basically instructs Oxfam to withdraw from funding for UK aid money until inquiries are completed. It introduces a new audit standard. You're not going to get any money from us unless we are satisfied that when you have these incidents, that you deal with them properly. In the 2 weeks after the Oxfam story, we also learned that Save the Children had a major sexual harassment scandal involving very senior executives in its offices in London. 2 of Britain's best-known charities at the centre of serious sexual misconduct scandals. I think the public were absolutely shocked, and it's shaken people's faith in the charity sector.
Sean is perhaps the most dogged, determined and committed journalist that I've met, and he showed that in his commitment to getting this story over the line. It was a lot of work, and it was a lot of slammed doors and hung up phones, and he continued to persevere.
The power of a story like this goes further than the story itself, because you've got a very trusted title, delivering a story with enormous impact, getting it right, and there's a huge reaction from the world at large to the story, and it goes global. So the power of that really is that organisations and individuals know that if a story like this appears in the Times, they're going to be in trouble.
Professionally, I'm glad we stuck it out. I think the Times did it really well. I think we really projected it well. We committed to it. I think we've played a really important part in driving reform or proposing reform. Whether that reform actually gets enacted, I'm a journalist, I'm cynical. I wait and see. But I would hope we've done some good.